Planning and Zoning Commission. The town values and welcomes public input. Please address the commission as a whole and not an individual commission member. Do not address the staff or members of the audience. Commission action on items brought up in the call to the public is limited by the open meeting law. The commission may direct staff to study the matter and reschedule for further consideration at a later date. Items on the agenda will not be heard or discussed and called to public. Individuals are limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone in the public looking to get up and speak? Mr. Ingles, would you please come up to the podium? Thank you.
Robert Ingles, mailing address P.O. Box 65 Lakeside, long-time resident. I just wanted to address the commission in general, as tonight's kind of a special night where 3 people applied for some seats up here. And in that I had served back in 1985 on the original Planning and Zoning Commission as vice chairman, and was fortunate to attend a lot of multiple planning conferences. Some were out of state, some were down in Phoenix. There were times we had presenters come to us and educate us in what makes a good planning and zoning commissioner. And due to some of what I'm going to call disharmony in the community and maybe some trust concerns that have developed, I just thought I would throw some things out. At one point, we had a 2020 vision committee, and that was established in the 90s, thinking ahead to 2020. And it was a diverse group that tried to represent and just met and shared ideas and tried to bring things forth to the governing bodies, which I look as a commission as being one of those. At this point, I'm not sure how familiar the commission is, but there is an Arizona Planning Association, and they have conferences, and membership is only at a cost of about $55 a year, I believe, for the first 2 years, and the shared information from other communities through the state Arizona Planning Association was very beneficial in my mind to me, to how I use our town codes, our general plan, and apply those when I come to make decisions on land use especially. If we have a tree board, I think it's commission unless it's been changed. And I just know coming to a meeting like this where perhaps there could be zoning maps on display, future land use maps that are part of our decision-making processes, that would help me feel better as a citizen. Couple of things, there are some signage issues and a burnt down building that's been fenced since November, that when I hear our counselors, our desire for our community to entice new businesses to come in, to infill, some of these things have gone on for months, and I have pictures stored on a camera, but it seems that code enforcement and code compliance would want to bring these things, I'll say, to not be in the visual Highway 260 corridor for people. Again, town code, general plans, I guess seeing a commission, if when decisions are made, if you folks are able to reference why you're making the decision you are, when you've got people sitting out here that are trying to interpret how that decision is going to affect them, and I'll say the application of the code specifically, it makes us feel a lot better to hear that. So with that, thank you for letting me address you at this time in tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Ingles.
Thank you.
All right, minutes C1, consider approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission held on June 23rd, 2022. Did any of the commissioners have an opportunity to review those minutes for their accuracy?
I make a motion to approve the minutes for the Planning and Zoning June 23rd, 2022.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. D1, new business. Discussion and consideration of the town council and the reappointment of John Salsa continue to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission with a term ending July 24th, 2025. Mr. Ingles, I have a card for D for all. Would you like to come up and speak towards this issue?
Yes, I just would like to say, as a longtime citizen and somewhat worried about conflicts and all, there's a little bit of a problem with family relationships that might sway decision-making on the commission. And I just thought that in some of the discussion that I've had, the way that tonight's agenda was laid out in this D1 and D2, both individually, they don't show that there were any applicants for that position in D1 other than yourself. And as a citizen, knowing that there were 3 interested people, it was a little discomforting, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I'd like to address that.
Can you turn your speaker on? There you go.
We did have a conversation with the town attorney on how we're gonna lay the agenda out, and so it is in this fashion, under the direction of the town attorney.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the commission on the reappointment of John Salzko? Mr. Williams?
Yeah, I have to ask that you recuse yourself.
I'm going to not vote.
Okay.
He can abstain from voting.
Yeah, I abstain
Mhm.
from voting him. Maybe
You
no.
don't- But we have to recuse.
So, can I answer? So, he can be part, like, if you guys want to ask him questions,
Right.
you can do that, but he has to abstain from voting, as does Allison from her vote.
Right.
Yes.
So he doesn't have to recuse himself?
No.
Okay.
So I guess I can ask you, John, so from the public's concern about the family relation, do you feel like that is a concern, or how would you address that, you think?
My position on the commission doesn't interact with the town clerk in any fashion other than what you have. I get the same agenda. There's nothing different than any other commissioner. I'm not told how to vote or who to vote for or any of those type of things whatsoever. And I'm only privy to the exact same information that the entire council is privy to. So there's nothing different.
Okay.
I make a recommendation to the town council to reappointment of John Sokolow to serve as the planning and zoning commission with the term ending July 24th,
I'll second
2025.
I'll second that.
I'll second it too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item D2, discussion and consider recommending to the town council the reappointment of Allison Stewart to continue to serve on the planning and zoning commission with a term ending July 24th, 2025. Mr. Ingles, once again, would you like to address the commission?
Similar issue. I guess I saw a room full of people here 2 weeks ago that all had concerns, and the process that has occurred since then with the individual commissioner who is wishing to be reappointed. I know with open meeting laws and things like that, and only through reading in the paper, if that's accurate or not, I guess my interpretation would be there was some discussion and concern regarding that meeting. And so tonight, again, with their other, in my opinion, as a citizen, options for who's going to fill those seats up there, we're down now with this D2 item being, making 3 interested parties having to vie for 1 seat. And that's a little bit uncomfortable, so thank you.
Discussion from anybody on the commission?
I guess my question, could she respond to something like that, or does she want to, she need to?
I have no comment.
No problem, okay.
Would one of the commissioners like to make a motion?
I will. I move to recommend Allison Stewart to the town, it says town council.
Yes.
Does say
We're
town.
recommending.
You are recommending it to the town council.
Recommend Allison Stewart to town council for appointment to the planning and zoning commission for the term ending July 2025.
July 24th, 2025. Thanks.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimously.
John, can you call for abstain?
Ms. Stewart abstains.
Can you ask for abstain, so she can? Thank you.
D3, interview of candidates for possible recommendation to the town council for the appointment of an applicant to the planning and zoning. We have 3 applicants. We thank you for coming to see me. In no particular order, I'm going to call and ask you to come up to the podium and tell us a little bit about yourself. And then at that time, some of the commissioners might have a couple questions for you. Like I say, no particular order. Could I ask Derek Cady to come up to the podium, please?
Howdy. Want me to introduce myself?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, why you want to be on town council, how you can help the
Es
community.
Pinetop
Sorry,
Lakeside.
now they got me on the council. On planning and zoning as commissioner, just kind of what, how long you've been in the community and what you would like to see and how you can impact the community.
My family moved up here in '97. I attended Blue Tri School. I have 4 kids, married to my wife, Jolene McNeil, Katie. We run a very successful cabinet cleaning business where we clean and maintain vacation rentals. So I'm very familiar with that portion of what's going on the mountain. Also, over the last 3 years, I've promoted the town and the mountain through various social media avenues, such as a group called Photos of the Arizona White Mountains. Has 25,000 members. I built and grew a Facebook page called Wild Pinetop. I am a nurse at the Shoulder Knee Clinic. I've been there 7 years. I have participated in the Little League for the last 7 years. I was the Little League president, and I umpire Little League baseball, high school baseball, ref high school football and basketball. I'm very involved with the community. I think the youth and are very important. Also, I think that there's so many opportunities in this town where new eyes and younger eyes may be able to help plan. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission. I will, on average, my lifespan will be 80 years. I plan on being here that long, and so when we make plans, I will be involved in those plans. And I have kids, so I have a vested interest in how this town grows. That's me in a nutshell.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions that they would like to ask Mr. Cady?
I have a question to ask you. All the things you mentioned, all the things you've done in the community, what is your why? Like, why are you so involved?
Why am I so involved? I feel that when people come here, they become better people. Either they leave and they make the world a better place, or they make their families a better place. Any minute spent on the mountain in the pine trees is a minute to benefit the world. And that sounds kind of kooky, but I believe that. You go out in the woods for 5 minutes and you're a better person. And we have the opportunity in this town to spread that through the state and through the world. And that's why I think it's important for this community to grow and not be stagnant and still maintain the small town feel, but take advantage of the things the growth that has to happen. It's going to happen, but we have the opportunity to make it grow in a way we'd like it to grow. That keeps in the tradition of Pinetop Lakeside, the town of Pinetop Lakeside. So.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much. We really appreciate hearing from you. Jeffrey Phillips, if Mr. Phillips come over. podium, please? Just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Excuse me. I moved here about 3.5 years ago, going on 4, from California, to escape California. Anyway, I came here, retired law enforcement, did 28 years in law enforcement in California. I've always served my community. I realize the importance of integrity and honesty, especially in volunteers and community members. I think it's very important that volunteers for this community have that background to show that you're honest, have integrity, you're willing to talk to people, you're willing to go out and find out what the town needs, what the town wants. And as a member of the planning and zoning, I think our job would be to provide good information and guidance to the town council in regards to the rules and regulations and that type of deal, so they have a good information to go on to make informed decisions that can benefit this community and the growth of this community. And like Derek said, this community is going to grow. There's no doubt about it. We see it all the time. I've seen it just in the almost 4 years I've been here. There's no stopping the growth here. It's going to grow. It's just a matter of the planning commission and the town council needs to make a good, proper plan to prepare for that growth. Because if we hold back and don't prepare for it, it's going to be chaos. It'll be like Flagstaff. So anyway, I got a vested interest. I'm not going anywhere. My daughter and son-in-law are moving here at the end of the month. They've sold everything. They're moving out here. It's a beautiful place to be on the mountain, and I got a vested interest to make sure that we plan it to how the citizens want it, and give the good information to the city council so they can approve it.
Thank you so much. Does any of the commissioners have any questions they would like to ask Mr. Phillips?
I also have, I've done several building projects here on my own as an owner builder, and I always use the proper permits and work with the different agencies and all that stuff. So I'm familiar with the building process also.
Excellent. That's good information for sure. No commissioners have.
I have a question. In your bio, you talk about how I've had the pleasure of meeting our local businessmen and women. From your conversation with them, are they providing any input? Are they providing any insight to how they would like to see the town progress or grow?
The people that I have talked to about it, I was working part-time at CarQuest behind the counter because I needed something to do. And a lot of people I talked, they want to see more businesses in this town. Not so much building, because we've got plenty of buildings. If you drive around town, we got plenty of storefronts that are empty, we got plenty of buildings, but a lot of the people that I've talked to, they'd love to see more businesses here.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Excellent.
Do you know what kind of businesses they predominantly want?
I've heard about motorsports businesses. There's only I think Sholo Motorsports, and then there's one up here, Redline. That's the only two, and half the time those guys come and have parts, and we all see on the weekends who's coming up here, bringing their toys up here, and they would spend money on parts and tires and that type of deal if those businesses were here available. In California, there was a big business called Cycle Gear. I loved it. I ride motorcycles and off-road stuff, so stuff like that, I've heard about that. There's need for machine shops up here. We had one machine shop down in Sholo, Bill's Machine Shop. Sonny Penrod also has a small little shop. He's not a full-service machine shop, but so there's needs for those, and those are they're high-earning businesses, machine shops, and the power plants would need them. All the loggers, anyone who operates heavy equipment, They need machine shops to make those parts and pins, because up here, there's a problem sometimes getting those parts. You know, I was working on, I do building maintenance also, I was working on a steam boiler today. And I had to make do with some stuff that I found, because no one has the part up here. And they said, well, you might be able to get it in the valley, or you might have to order it. So I think it'd be important to get some of those more industrial businesses, you know, motorsport type stuff, machine shops. I mean, we've got plenty of restaurants. There's a restaurant in every corner, but not that there's anything wrong with them. It's all good because I like to eat. Anyway.
Any other commissioners? Thank you so much for coming up and sharing that with us. All right, bringing up the back of this, Harry Turner. Mr. Turner, could you come up? Thank you.
My name is Harry Turner. I've lived in Lakeside for 2.5 years, least amount of time with the candidates in front of you here. But I did live in the valley, in the Anthem area, in the valley for 19 years before friends and my family moved up here. We vacationed, my family vacationed up here while we were in the valley for all the obvious reasons. And then since I retired in 2008 and gained the friendship of a number of people in the valley, we all somehow moved up here. We had a neighborhood in Anthem of 7 or 8 of us that were all within a block of each other. We socialized and we started vacationing together up here. And lo and behold, we all bought up here. Love the area, love the climate. My wife does especially. And people here, it's very easy to get acclimated here with people. I don't own a business. I've been retired since 2008. I spent 32 years at General Motors in Detroit. Got an engineering degree from the University of Illinois, master's in business administration, marketing major. Designed a lot of cars while I was at General Motors, and what I see is the process for getting funding approved to design a car that's going to last 5 to 7 to 10 years, and keeping it profitable over that lifespan, and getting everyone involved in the corporation to rally behind it. And it takes an inclusive effort to get people to agree from a large corporation that only builds trucks, only wants to build trucks and mid-sized cars, to agree to build programs. And that's what I spent most of my career doing, was getting approval and designing and building, and eventually racing in motorsports. Motorsports was my last assignment before I retired. It takes a lot of effort to get folks who don't understand a small volume car like that, a sports car, when they're trying to make a lot of profit. So I think my experiences are related to what I would like to believe are needs with the commissioner. Spent a lot of time with consultants. I bring this up because I read the 2001 county plan, I read the 2015 town plan, and recently the 5-year plan. And I know that the manager, Mr. Elba, and his group worked with a consulting company. I think the pronunciation is probably going to throw me here a little bit. I think it's Coragio or something like that. And I worked with a lot of consulting companies as we reorganized General Motors. We had major reorganizations 3 times in my stay there. And we worked with Deloitte and Touche. And taking those efforts to get everyone understanding the corporate or the overall plan, and then breaking it down by department. And that's what I saw in the 5-year plan. We took these 2 huge documents, the last one in 2015, and they came up with what I think are realistic initiatives. And the priorities are great. I drove by the police department. That's in the first year or 2, and there's already work going on in the parking lot there. But the building needs some help. And as you drive around, the major things I see here that are cumbersome for visitors and residents is the traffic, especially this time of year. Don't know what you can do about controlling speed. Everyone's speeding. You'll joke, don't try to make a left turn from May to October, but that could be cracked down on a little bit. I think that help all of us. And the road system. The car I drive is not like the roads up there, but my truck is fine with it. So, I won't get any questions you might have. I love this area. I think even though they're not directly related to what the zoning and planning commission is up to, I think that my skills are adaptive and help obviously bring some diversity coming from manufacturing and sales and racing to the town. And look forward to helping you. You've seen me in a lot of meetings over the last year. I'm interested. As I was reading the plans, 2015, the 5-year plan, I stumbled upon the fact that we're looking for planning and zoning candidates. In the last 2 weeks, said this is a great way to learn the city. I've got some skills that I think can help, and I'd like to.
Thank you, I really appreciate your background and everything. Any of the commissioners, would you like to ask Mr. Turner any questions?
I just wonder if you drive a Corvette.
No, I've driven a lot of them in my time, and I'm not proud to say this, but I'm driving overseas right now.
Oh.
And if I'm 100% honesty, we can't engineer a car like
Oh.
that.
Any other questions, Commissioner?
I have a question for you. So, what's hard for me right now is we have a lot of great candidates. All three of you have great, can bring so much to the commission, and yet what I don't want to see is where any of you are no longer involved in the community, which I don't think that would be the case. But I see there's so many other opportunities for you guys to be involved in the community, and so in your situation, what are some other areas that you'd like to be involved in? And not saying that because you're not getting the commission, but these are some other interests that I have besides the commission that involves the town.
Right now, Longgate, the town where I live, we're transitioning from a developer HOA board to a homeowner. I worked on that board for a year, and we're still working on the transition as we approach build out. I've always been involved in HOAs where I was the president of the HOA in Michigan. We had a couple hundred homes there, and I was the president, and we had a lot of meetings, and I managed a lot of stress, but we had a successful community that always had surplus money, and not every homeowner agreed with every decision that was made by the board, but they always understood why we made those decisions. I want to continue working with the HOA. I want to get out of the house more and get more involved in other things around the two towns, the community here. And I'll be working on that. You see me in meetings here, whether I get on the commission or not, you're going to continue seeing me be a part of it, because I'm always interested in the towns that I live or cities that I live in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any of the other commissioners? Mr. Ingles, would you like to speak to any of the applicants?
No, I think they spoke for themselves, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Ingles. Discussion among the commissioners? Okay, sure, Mr. Williams?
Do we want to bring up, I talked to Jim earlier today, there's possibly going to be,
I'll address that once we get through the candidates. So let's just focus on the fantastic candidates we have here, okay?
Tough choice.
It is.
usually we don't have this hard of a choice to make.
I'm actually extremely happy we have 3 applicants, I'll be honest with you, it's fantastic. What we're gonna do now is vote on one of the candidates. And keep in mind, it's a recommendation to the council. So we're not appointing anybody. In front of each commissioner, we have a ballot. If everyone could mark their ballot and who they want to recommend to council, and then we're going to collect all the ballots on there. Mr. Smith, any questions, concerns?
Okay, this is to fill the seat that
Yeah, let's just focus, just now, and then we do have a further piece of business that's associated with this, but let's vote on this recommendation, and then I'm gonna address the applicants as a whole.
All right.
Okay? All right, everyone, please. Continue, you wanna pick these up, please?
Make sure you guys put your names on them.
I printed their names.
Okay, thank you.
Our names are right.
Yes,
Your name's printed on.
it's already on there.
I did not see it, but okay.
It's at the very top.
We got you.
I checked switching some. I checked for you.
Okay, Harry Turner received 3 votes, Jarrett Cavey received 2 votes, and Jeffrey Phillips received 1 vote.
Okay. We're going to recommend that Harry Turner be appointed to the commission and send that to town council.
You need to make a motion.
I make a motion to the town council to pass on recommendation, voting that we did tonight to the town council.
I'll second the motion to appoint Harry Turner, or to recommend to appoint Harry Turner. All in favor, say aye.
Against it.
Now to what everybody else was kind of talking about, we're gonna have, very likely, there's a high probability that some of the commissions that are sitting up here today are going to be affected by the election that we're currently having. And so we're gonna have some other seats most likely open. And we have 2 potential seats that are probably gonna open up. So the way that works is I ask that the individuals that came this evening reapply after the election if seats do open. And come back. It's kind of the same process, but there, like I say, there's a very, very high likelihood that we can have 2 more seats available. Okay, and I'd like to thank you guys for your time coming out. Really appreciate that, and we hope to see you again. Thank you.
Yeah, I can do it, because John probably doesn't know. So this is gonna go on, whoever you guys will recommend, will go on the vote with the town council on July 21st. So Harry, can you make that meeting? Because council may want to ask you some questions. Okay, so July 21st, that'll be on the agenda.
2 days before my birthday.
All right. Once again, thank you for coming, and we hope to see you. D4, review and discussion of the site plan SPR 22-261 for the proposed new build at the existing Circle K convenience store on White Mountain Boulevard and Pine Lake Road in Pinetop. Mr. Lloyd, could you bring us up to speed on the town's position?
Good evening, we have applicant Circle K Stores for requesting a site plan design review for 5,200 square foot convenience store at the current location of the Pinetop Circle K. I have reviewed this plan, I sent it to the fire department, received comments from the fire department and some from the council as well. The location of the subject property is 2483 East White Mountain Boulevard. Zoning is currently zoned for light commercial zoning C1. Project area is approximately 1.98 acres. Maximum lot coverage should be less than 10.9%. The building height not less than 35 feet, or excuse me, less than 35 feet. There is a discrepancy. Now, I noted a discrepancy in the site plan regarding rear setbacks when I was reviewing this. I did discuss this with the applicant, and they corrected that, and you should have an amended site plan in front of you. Let's see. In this case, the parcel behind the subject property is zoned R low, and so that's what brought forward. There's several different requirements for setbacks, so it's a little bit confusing. In the commercial zone district, there's 3 different actual setbacks based on circumstances, and this circumstance where it's 20 feet, it's zoned R low, back behind in the county yard, even though it's a public building, it's zoned residentially, and the code requires a 20-foot setback for that reason. Some of the requests from the fire department are some items that I'm certain will be addressed in the actual building plans, as far as like the knock spots, fire flow requirements, stuff of that nature. They wanted you to be advised that there is some local amendments to the 2018 IFC that say it needs to be adopted. And they requested a traffic impact analysis as well. And this was based off of some concerns. They are located immediately adjacent to this, so they're aware of some of the traffic problems that occurred in that area, and so they would like to request a traffic impact analysis, as part of, not necessarily as part of the site plan, but as part of the site improvements will require a drainage report and a grading and drainage plan, since there will be changes to the existing drainage pattern. Existing structure is not within a human designated floodplain. 26 parking spaces are required, and 29 will be provided. Access to the site is provided by adding 2 clearly defined egress from SR 260 and 1 existing from Pine Lake Road. There was a concern that was brought forward by one of the members of the town council, site distance identified, and site distance to the signage. I did take a measurement on the signage from the intersection. It's about 70 feet. Does that sound accurate? Okay. It's a 50 square foot, roughly just under 50 square foot sign, but it's 70 foot from the intersection. Proposed addition is subject to the design review guidelines in 17.88040C, and there's the requirements that are outlined there as far as low profile section canopy, screen lights, the colors associated with the painting on the perimeter, beauty colors. And they should live off nature and reduce its perceived scale. Landscaping, all existing landscaping shall conform with 16.24.030.b.1. Commercial lots, developments that back up to existing or designated residential land use shall provide a landscape unbuilt area buffer strip adjacent to the common property line to mitigate any adverse effects to the residential neighborhood or commercial use. Also, landscaping must conform to 16.24.050. Trees must be 2-inch caliper size upon installation. Bushes must be 5 gallons in size upon installation. All requirements of 17.92.050 shall be adhered to. Underground irrigation is required for all landscape areas. 26 trees are required, and 26 new trees were provided. One of the recommendations I had for the applicant was, I noted that a lot of the trees were in the detention basin area, and I think it would suit you guys better for some of the landscaping requires to shift some of those behind the structure. The code calls for screening between you and residential property, and in this case, that actually would benefit you guys more because of what's behind the county road yard. So I would recommend that you take that into consideration. Exterior lighting is shall conform 17.104.100, and the signage, new metal signage on the mountain structure with a total square footage of 113.48 square foot next to the main entrance and on the building, and the permissible square footage of all signage does not exceed 150 square foot wide. So as far as my staff recommendations, I would recommend that you guys open dialogue with the fire department and address the comments that they brought forward, specifically the traffic impact analysis, and that can be addressed during the building permit process. And then it should be noted that the landscaping requirements could be met by shifting, as I mentioned, some of the trees from the detention basin to the rear structure of the screen, the residentially zoned neighborhood. All landscape areas require underground irrigation that needs provided. The building should be painted in earth tone color as submitted, and setbacks from the store, as identified on the amended plan, in the rear are 20 feet. That was my staff report. Is there any questions for me or?
Hey, Commissioner Williams?
When was there a fee paid? Because it's not marked on
The
that
fee
page.
is paid, yes.
Because it's not marked when they filed.
The fee is paid, and they filed this, I think, 2-3 weeks ago. Does that sound accurate?
It says your signature for date accepted is 6/6, but it doesn't say when it was filed, so. Or does that, is it on?
You can pull it up on civic review. Yeah, we have June 13. They mailed a check with their application and required submittals.
I have a question, Mr. Lloyd, for you. Is the new store, well, how big is the existing one? I don't have an idea for square foot. 'Cause
That's
we're
probably a
doing-
better question for the applicant. I know that the proposal is
Okay.
5,200.
Can you come up with addresses?
Yeah, what's that applicant?
This is Michael Scarborough representing Circle K.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. So, I got a couple questions on the location, and like you heard before, what's the size of the existing store? Kind of give us an idea of what we're looking at here.
It's roughly 3,000 square feet.
And does this store, is it in the same location as the existing store and just bigger, or is it shifted more to the left and away from Pine Lake Road? Kind of.
It's shifted a little bit further away from Pine Lake Road. We did that in order to get the access point onto Pine Lake as far away from 260 as possible. We literally have the drive coming in at the property line, or rear property line.
You're saying the new one's gonna be 3,000 or this one's 3,000?
Sorry, the existing is 3,000, the new one's 5,200.
Okay.
And you can access the store from Pine Lake.
Yes, sir, in a much more safe way. I'm a part-time resident of the White Mountain Summer Homes, and so that's my store. And that is a mess out there, so it doesn't surprise me at all that fire department's asking for a TIA to take a look at it and understand better what's going on there. And if the measures we're putting in, really the only measure we have at this point is to pull it as far away from the intersection as we can. But I think that that'll be a benefit. Also, that's better defined. I mean, if you guys know the store, and I'm certain you guys all do, that there's only a couple of curb cuts kind of defined along 260, but it just feels like a free-for-all out there. This will clean that all up and give us defined points of ingress egress.
So your TIA study is there a chance we can get a traffic signal there?
We haven't even engaged in the study yet. That's a comment that just recently came out of
We need one
staff's report. I can't speak to whether or not it's needed amount of traffic engineer, but it wouldn't be an unlikely location, in my opinion, for one to ultimately be installed. There's also considerations for right-of-way and all the other stuff that needs to go in to get those placed, but I can't speak to it directly.
Were you gonna try to purchase the county buildings behind that originally?
You know what, I'm not on the real estate acquisition side, and I'm more on the entitlement permitting side for Circle K, so I'm not sure what conversations they've had to date. It wouldn't surprise me that they might look into that to get a little bit more depth, but we were told to move forward with what's shown on that plan, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Lloyd, on the trees, so we're gonna do 26, that's what's the minimum that's required. Is there a size requirement or type? I'm just kind of curious. What we
Really,
do.
that was identified in my staff report. They can start out pretty small, it's like 2-inch diameter caliber.
Okay, and I would probably recommend the Circle K, it's bigger trees if we can do that, you know. I mean, I don't know where they're gonna land on that, but the more trees, bigger trees, and a variety of trees, I know the community would really like that. You know, blue spruce instead of just ponderosa pine or maple or whatever they can put in there. Just kind of a suggestion from that standpoint. Commissioner Williams?
Are you guys gonna put rocks in the front of it, like the other Circle K, or are you gonna put grass like Safeway where it looks nicer?
Our typical landscape palette has the rocks, but we're not opposed to doing the grass. I'm trying to recall if I think we did grass down at 260 in Cub Lake and Jolo. I think there is some grass elements around that, so we're not opposed to doing grass if that's a request.
Commissioner Brimhall?
I like that you did rocks. I don't think we need wastewater. I was planting grass for individuals to look nice. I agree it looks nice, but I think we considerably know what water is for our community. Regarding the trees, are these trees like standard trees that Circle K uses? I know you guys probably have stores all over the place. You make sure arborists. Like, are these trees like a standard tree set that you guys use that don't destroy like your sidewalks, that don't have crazy root systems, or et cetera, that just destroy what's above it?
Yeah, we do have a standard palette of trees, but obviously every jurisdiction has different requirements. And also every region has trees that are gonna be more likely to survive and blossom versus others. So we do modify that and try to work within what the jurisdiction of the region would allow for best. I would also say that along 260, we have quite a stretch of trees out there that will actually be able to maintain that are existing out along the sidewalk. And we're trying to maintain as many as we can throughout the project. So we'll have some existing pine that will remain, and then we'll have the new palette that we bring in.
Okay. Are you guys able to do something like different in the sense of like, you look at the store, oh, that's a great Circle K, like, are you guys able to do something that's Pinetop focused, or a symbol on like your signage or something that kind of shows that you're happy, like you're excited to be in Pinetop Lakeside, like we're different than all the other stores. Yes, they're earth tone colors, but like, we're calling this special to us. Like, are you guys able to do that, or is it, no, we have to keep it to this for cost reasons?
Well, I mean, there's always a consideration, especially in today's world with construction costs and labor shortages, et cetera, that are driving these projects to be more expensive than they've ever been. So there's an element to that, but there's also a willingness to be a part of the community, which Circle K always wants to do and strives to be. So in situations similar to what you described, we have done like small monument signage saying, well, Pinetop Lakeside or something that may not be probably inappropriate at that location, because it's one of the first sets of businesses you get into as you're coming in from the east. So there are opportunities that we could look at, and we'd be happy to work with staff on something along those lines.
Jeremiah, is that something exciting, or like, James, don't talk about that stuff, it's more work for me?
I mean, one of the problems with that is they only have a certain allotment for their signage, and they're, what I identified, they're at about 100 square feet or so. So you could max it at 150, but you have to keep in mind that you're only allotted 2 signs as well, and you pretty much have those taken up with your, the store sign on the store, and then the monument sign.
Well, we would follow your lead for sure. It wouldn't be, what I'm proposing isn't something that would have Circle K on it, but I'm proposing something that would literally be welcome to Pinetop on it. So if that's something that makes sense, we follow staff's lead, we'd be happy to work with you on that.
Cool, thank you.
Commissioner Smith, you have a question? No?
I did, John. So are you adding on to that building? Is that what you're doing?
No, so the building's in a state that it's gonna be, would be really hard to add on.
New
This
construction.
is a true raise and rebuild.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is a scrape and start over. The tanks, the pumps, the building, all of it, pulled out and all brand new put back in.
Then maybe there's a chance we could do something down here in Lakeside at the Circle K. That one up a little bit.
You know, as I mentioned, I'm a part-time resident in Phoenix, in White Mountain Summer Homes from Phoenix, and so I've gotten the Payson store rebuilt. I worked on the one at Cub Lake. I'm trying to hit all my stores on the way up.
Yeah.
Up and down the hills, yeah. We'll see.
Well, you kind of bypassed that one in Lakeside, so maybe.
Yeah, they have looked at it. I'm not sure if there's enough additional space. I'm trying to remember,
There might be a possibility
Veterans
for a
Village
couple
is
purchases.
I can't remember if they border Veterans Village there.
If you're looking at the store to the left, I think there might be a possibility.
You're right,
for
there
a
may be
couple
some availability.
Purchases there, yes.
Yeah,
Be
possibility.
a good idea, yeah.
Commissioner Williams?
When do you expect to start this project, and how long do you think it will take to build it?
Well, I would say the Circle K typically starts as soon as permits are available, and so we would be pushing forward with that part of the process with the town. So assuming permits became available at, a date certain, it's typically about a 7-month build because we're remote up here in the mountains. And given our experience down at Tub Lake, I would tell you it's probably closer to 8 months. Just getting materials up here, even today with the labor issues and stuff like that, it just takes a little bit longer to get these done.
So do you project starting in August, September, October?
I don't know how long the CD process takes. It takes us about 45 days to create the full set of drawings that needs to be reviewed. And then the TIA, as that potentially also takes, that could take 60 days to get completed before it'd be ready to submit. So quickest I could have plans ready to submit and be reviewed would be right around 60 days. And then I don't know what the typical review time frame is, so I'd have to line up staff for that.
Typically, we have 21 days, and then instance with the per commercial project, it may take a little bit longer, but generally we try to follow within that 20 days. We're pretty fast on that.
And I can mention to you as well that those 2 new access points, I believe we have to work with ADOT. And so really the long pole in the tent will be the coordination and permitting through ADOT. I don't anticipate the town taking longer than the ADOT process.
Possibly the earliest would be October 1st, but then it could be November, December, that the weather is going to be a factor.
I think I'm projecting December on my staff support for Circle K as far as permits available, and that's again not town-based, it's ADOT-based. And so they would look at the weather and determine if it's something that they want to jump into right away, or if they want to wait until the weather starts to clear after the first of the year.
Did we get any proposals or anything on the sign? I mean, is it gonna be a big Circle K sign, or are you gonna do
It's in the,
it's in there?
So I have a question. I know you're gonna do this all this time, all these Circle Ks all over the place. Do you guys have like a local contractor effort, or is it more of a, we bring in people from Phoenix that come in, know our process and our procedures, and they do all the work, and then they head back down to Phoenix? Or is it like, or is there other efforts to try to include as many local, regional businesses as possible?
That's a great question. So they have general contractors that typically will travel for them outside of the state of, or outside of the city of Phoenix, and quite honestly, outside the state of Arizona. But they do make an effort, the GCs do make an effort to come into the community and utilize as many local resources as they can. Now, of course, they bid it.
Right.
So assuming that the prices are in line with their other bids, they do make a really strong effort to utilize local.
Okay.
It just makes sense. I mean, the travel back and forth is 3.5 hours back and forth to Phoenix. Lodging up here can get expensive, so it makes sense to use local. It makes sense to support local. So they do make an effort in that.
Any other commissioners have any questions? No? Mr. Ingles, this is a D item. I kind of waited until everybody had spoke, so maybe he answered some of your questions, or you could present us with some insight or pretty good questions.
Certainly, thank you for letting me speak. First of all, I would say I was so impressed to get a packet with such detail and reference to the code. And also, some of the things that I felt were specific in here were very clear. I felt relieved to hear that the canopy will not be wrapped in bright red. It's going to be the beige, and I won't look back at the applicant, but maybe he can answer some questions too. I assume the beigey color will match the Circle K that's built at the Shoal Lake Road and 260 intersection. And I made a phone call to thank the Sholo Planning and Zoning for maintaining as much of the tree coverage as they could when that site was developed. And I appreciated hearing at this meeting tonight that they would save the trees they could that are along the sidewalk area, which would put us in compliance with this C1 property that has a stated C1 front yards along 260 shall have a 20-foot yard with native trees and vegetation must, shoot, I can't read my own writing, must establish a forest landscape theme. And so hearing that and looking at all these plans, I was pretty impressed with all the work that went into this. A couple of questions that came up trying to read on fine print on this size paper for this large of a project. I believe the canopy itself is 24 feet wide by 174 feet, if I could read that properly. So it's a good sized canopy. with 6 pumps under it, which will probably be 2 nozzles. And I am making that assumption from what I read. The question that was kind of puzzling, it looked like either the retention area or the need to fill a lot of the lower part of the property. I thought I was reading a 20-foot, I was going to say retention wall, retaining wall. So there's a huge elevation difference on there. I would say that my residence is about 40 acres away diagonally from this, and the noise sometimes and the lights is there. And one of the concerns that I saw, if this is all raised up and there's going to need to be some safety features if there's a sufficient drop off from that kind of retaining wall. And again, I couldn't read the finer print the way this came out, but the safety of that was a concern. And also the acreage on the site plan design review application says 3.7 acres. And on the site plan, it says remaining portion of the lot, but the acreage is different. Another place it says 1.7. And I thought somebody here would probably know why you read those two different figures. I would also share that the first mayor of Pinetop Lakeside, Jay Natoli, made an issue on Midtown Circle K when they took a heavily forested parcel of property there. And he made them preserve the pine trees that were in that front corner. And it was an issue, and to see that the Circle K Corporation, I'll say, complimented our community by agreeing to go by the stipulations that were out. So they got a whole new business site there at the Midtown, and they saved some pine trees. So these win-win situations to me are wonderful in our community. And I had also made some notes that I would address the ADOT importance. Driving that area, a lot of times at night, it seems in the winter months, people end up in dark clothing and crossing the highway. With the higher density residential on the opposite side of 260, and the seemingly need to get the groceries that a convenience store is able to provide, it seems that there's a heavier flow of pedestrian traffic, sometimes carrying bags back, so they're buying product there. But it's just a safety concern that as this analysis comes forth, maybe a brighter light out there. I know crosswalks and signals are very expensive, but with the increase in the volume of people coming and going from that big of a service station and the additional square footage, that is a safety concern that I would share in this group, that however that could be addressed, I think would be smart. And is it a split block face or is it a cultured stone on the building itself? Again, looking at it is very attractive, and if it resembles the other Circle Ks, I can understand. But thank you for making all this available to us.
Jeremiah, do you want to address any of the questions that Robbie had in there?
I believe that it is split face, is that correct, or what are we working on?
There's elements of split face, yes, sir.
Okay. And then I did notice the retention basin, and that was hence one of my comments for the drainage report.
And as far as crossing the road there, Mr. Eagles, I heard today, in fact, that there's a petition circulating to try to get a crosswalk in there. I don't know who's moving the petition forward, just because we have the Munich House and we have the Lodge, and just somewhere between, I can't remember, it's like 9 Pines kind of moving up in there. So maybe you can assist them and get that, because I know there's a real desire between the businesses there already to try to get a crosswalk of some sort in there. And I know they're trying to put something together for me. Not really sure who's moving it, but I just heard that today. So
one other comment, I had a note here, but on their signage, which is nice to have these drawings all provided for how the sign will map, but just to make sure they have a spot where the street address for the 911 and all that would be. It looks like it could go right on the end of the sign, but that helps people that are trying to find their way around town to have those numbers visible, and I think it is a requirement.
Right, it is a requirement
Okay.
for a CBO too, so that would be addressed in the building permit process.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Eagles. Thank you, Jeremiah.
Jeremiah, isn't the project, the retention basin part of the project area?
Yes.
'Cause it says 1.89 or 98 acres for the project area, but then it says the total acreage is 3.752. So where's the other 1.6 acres that's not part of the project?
The applicant here, what's that?
Yeah, I apologize if there's a discrepancy on there or confusion, but I think the intent is to only purchase a portion of the parcel that's available to the west of the Circle K. So the acreage that's shown on there as remaining is the area that we're not purchasing of a larger piece.
So it's a total of 10.752 and you guys are purchasing only 1.98 of it?
I believe that's correct, yes, sir.
So you haven't already purchased that?
No, ma'am, Circle K is in the process of acquiring the property.
I have a question, and one more thing, I'm sorry. So since you drive down that road, or right with that Pine Lake, do you feel like Circle K, they're making efforts to address, either your needs that you like to have, or any users that have fifth wheels, or campers, or viewers, like, from your experience with Circle K, do you feel like this is meeting the needs of our tourists, from our citizens? Are there other things that you, as a citizen, like to see in this that you've seen elsewhere that would be beneficial for us?
Yeah, I think it does. If you notice on the western end of the parcel, the parking gets deeper, and you've called that out for kind of larger vehicle parking. That's not available today at that Circle K. The bigger store, the better security lighting, the low-level lighting, I think that's going to be a good upgrade for that Circle K. I've got young children who like to go up to the existing facility, and it's not overly comfortable for me if it's in the evening. So I think those things will be helpful to bring to the parcel. But as mentioned, with the grading and drainage and the retaining wall, et cetera, this is a challenging parcel. If you've been out there and walked kind of past the Circle K along 260 towards the west, there's a lot of undulation and a lot of drop. And quite frankly, a lot of places for people to be. I ran into a few of them myself just doing site visits, getting ready for the project. So I think this will be a great benefit. And that low-level retention, I believe we would look at doing some low-level security, bollard-level lighting, because we are going to have a wall with a handrail for security for people on the high side. But that doesn't mean it needs to be a dark, welcoming place on the low side. So we're going to have security cameras and some low-level lighting down there as well to just try to keep and monitor that area.
Oh, thank you.
Are you gonna have any security there?
Not security guards, but we always do security cameras, and then we do lighting that enables us to help monitor the area. We're not looking to light up other than the gas canopy overly bright for the purposes of just being overly bright. We do need some security lighting. Light typically tends to push people away.
Yeah, because I know there's some hanging out there that goes on. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, very, very much aware. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
No, there's no.
Yeah, so it's just discussion.
It is an action item.
Yeah, it is an action item.
Yeah, you guys have,
It says review and discussion, does it say make motion, or there's nothing up here for us to do that on our paper? Make a motion. So how can we make a motion when it's not a motion item?
this is a, action item.
Because it doesn't say that, it's review and discussion, so how can we make an action on it?
Review and discussion is a discussion and consideration, so it's an action item.
First page.
Thank you.
It's the first, yeah, but I'm talking about Ron.
the motion?
Yeah.
Right here.
No, I know, he's the one objecting to it, not me. I asked for a vote.
D4, it says not, there's nothing on D4 that says motion.
Well, it is, we've established that it is,
Okay.
so we can.
I'm just trying to clarify.
Stop, move forward from there. Do I have a motion to, approve?
I make a motion.
What, can you read, can you go?
Oh, I gotta get the page back.
Yes.
What page are we on there, John?
They don't have numbers.
It's on CDR D4.
Oh, G4.
D4.
I make a motion to accept and review and discussion of the site plan for the proposed new building at the existing Circle K convenience store on White Mountain Boulevard and Pine Lake Road in Pinetop.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye. No.
There's discussion.
Oh, we'll read
Do you want to put in in your motion, the stipulations that staff has in here?
Yeah, we usually put in staff, we approve it with staff recommendations.
So the recommended motion will see some little recommendations I have.
So yeah, just read D4. So Tim, you need to read, I move to approve the site plan for Pinetop.
Move to approve the site plan for the Pinetop Circle K with the following conditions. All setbacks adhere to the requirements set forth in 17.64.050. 2, all landscaping requirements are met. 3, all requirements of the Pinetop Fire District are adhered to.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous carries. D5, information discussion regarding a major amendment to the land use element of the 2015 general plan. Mr. Lloyd?
Okay, so this is a continuation of our ongoing efforts for updating land use, of the land use element of the 2015 general plan. So let's give this a second. Here's the load, hopefully everything looks up. Okay, let's see what I've been working on to reflect. Give me a second here, I have some technical difficulties, we tried this morning and got it to work, just gonna restart my computer. What I'm going to show you though is basically a culmination of everything that you guys have been discussed in prior meetings now. With some suggestions as far as, we had a little bit of back and forth regarding how wide the, open space area should be in riparian habitat. So, I started to go through and do different offsets, but then I realized, that in the background of the document I was already working on, it kind of varies, and they have some areas that are wider based on the dynamics of the floodplain and floodway, so there's already some of that captured. It might make our lives a little easier instead of having to look at different variations of it, because it actually does vary in different spots based on the geomorphology and the hydrodynamics of the floodplain. Cool. So hopefully I'll get my map running here for you guys to look at. Good work this morning, but basically, I took everything that you got, all the suggestions that we had from last time, the commercial on Kenrod, and I bumped that out to 500 feet, and I came up with that because you really need direction on that, so I based that off of larger commercial endeavors, and specifically I based it off the depth of Home Depot, so they had about 500 feet, so I put 500 feet on the center line for a substantial commercial area on Kenrod Summit. So, because one of the things that, if you guys were watching last night, that came up is there's an impression that there's not many areas left to develop commercially in the town, and there actually is, if you look at our limits and the available properties. So, and Penrock is probably the biggest, although it also presents the most challenges because there's no utilities. So it looks like we have it up and running. Let's see if I can get the map open.
I had heard in the past, commercial frontage along Highway 260 example is typically 200 feet. And I thought being here at the last meeting, that's what was suggested. I heard you say 500.
Right.
And I didn't hear the commissioners comment on that, if they are recommending 500 like you suggested now.
Right, so we'll look at that. But one of the things that we need to keep in mind, Mr. Eagles, is that we kind of have limited potential for commercial development currently. And so if we have open areas, we should look at what other areas have done and the depths and the areas that they have zoned for commercially for larger big box retailers if we were to ever do.
I agree. I just think in some of the master planning that's gone on over the years too, you look at what I'm going to call a node in reference to the larger areas that might not be treed or have other values, and trying to avoid the stripped feeling up and down these roads. I agree with that, and they had been identified on 260, and I respect the discussion 2 weeks ago regarding the Pinrod Road being the area that could widen out. But I just hated the thought of it being up and down the whole highway to just promote that strip feeling.
Okay, so will the commission take a look at what we have here? This was the main area of focus from last time. You can see the area highlighted red below here. That is along Penrod. After we head off Porter Mountain, 20 years ago there was a curve here. This was all Porter Mountain, and none of this was here. And then this road was built at Penrod. So there are other things going on in the background, but I think that what you guys had illustrated last time is a good starting model for this area. We have commercial, like I indicated, it's 500 feet on center, so that's a total of 1,000 square foot you're looking at right there on each side. And it still leaves a lot of area for the medium density residential in this area, and then the planned development going on next to Show Lake that was requested as well. If we'll look at what I have here is partially I have two different things going on here. I have the floodplain illustrated from FEMA, and I have the open space that was shown on the original county regional plan that we used as a jump off point. So I think that looking at this is probably more expeditious for us than looking at different offsets, because we can actually see, what the planners this was an engineering company that put this together. I think it was URS, but anyway, what they were looking at as far as open space in 2005, which I think is a good starting point, and it captures the majority of the floodway and the floodplain. And in some instances, I did notice that there was a question mark in my mind what's going on in this area. It's not really, I don't think it's a floodplain in this area, although there is some issues going on over right along this area. So I reviewed a submittal from the county for Big Bear Estates, and there is actually some floodplain in this area. I don't know why it's not reflected on ours. It might not have the right shape file from FEMA because it's outside of our jurisdiction, but I'm aware that there is a floodplain in this area, so maybe this is part of it too. So basically, we had discussed this area last time, and we also discussed along Jenkins Marsh, identifying that as commercial recreational, so I captured that here in this area. And nothing here is written in stone, and if you guys have any suggestions, of course, I'm open to anything that you guys can come up with, but this is kind of what I got, what I took away from last time. And one of the other problems that was with this, that I saw on this map was, it was made by Navajo County as a regional plan, so I had to take off everything in the county, because there was a lot of that going on. I mean, we could see the area that we were looking at Lakeside over here that is all part of Lakeside, that is not in the town. And that is actually in the, what's it called, the Lakewood Woods Census District. And there's about 4,000 people in there. Anyway, I digress. So this map takes in everything that we've talked about so far. We have in the area of Pinetop, where we started initially, we have this area was kind of, I had to pretty much interpolate what was going on here because this is in a FEMA designated floodplain. Not that it isn't a floodplain, it just hasn't been studied because there's no development there currently. So in that area, while this looks small, it's actually 200 feet. I can pull that measurement for you guys really quick here. But that's basically 2/3. It'll let me put this bug out. Anyway, you can take my word for it, it's 200 feet in that area, and that's basically the riparian area along Billy Creek that I can identify visually at least. And that is a barrier between what you had identified as an opportunity for planned area development, separated by low density. And then the other change that we had was down around Penrod Lane, in this area. So my suggestion was to think about making this commercial to tie into the commercial that's going on in this area. So this part needs to be updated in this area because this is actually, I don't know if we want to, and it's up to you guys how we want to handle that, because there's actually commercial in this area. The churches is zoned. Let me bring up the zoning map as well so you can see that. I think that it's helpful to look at the zoning, but I don't think that has to be the guiding document, because this is actually supposed to be the guiding document for zoning, not vice versa. But currently in this area, it is zoned commercially. And there was a group that approached us and actually purchased this parcel and wanted to expand the Pinetop Vista cabins, but under the current zoning, they would not be able to. They are legal non-conforming. One of the, and I'm sure Mr. Ingles is aware of this, one of the guiding principles in the general plan is that we eliminate legal non-conforming uses. So I did have that conversation with them. I told them, you can't expand this, you could replace it with the same, but they do want to expand it. So they've actually submitted to my office a zone change request based on the fact that they feel that it's a great opportunity to expand this business in that area that was brought up in the county.
Is that something you'll have to bring before us?
Yes. Yes, so just keep that in mind, and that was kind of why I wanted you guys to look at this area specifically, because I knew that that was coming. I heard that maybe it wasn't, but they did close on it, and the same group actually bought some of the RVs over on Poplar and eliminated the legal non-conforming use in that area, so they have a track record of doing this. So I think it would be prudent for us to consider working with them to fall in line with their general plan to eliminate some of the legal non-conforming uses and be more business friendly, because I think it is a great opportunity for these guys actually to expand in that area if it's something you guys want to consider doing. Initially, you had indicated that that you wanted to look at a planned area development, and that's what I have for you guys. So we can go with that as well. You have a comment, Mr. Ingles?
Yes, I have a concern. That has been a very rustic area
Can you
up
put it
there.
on speaker? It's just easier when we do
Okay,
this.
thank you. I'm sorry. Yes, as a resident, Robert Mills resident on Penrod Lane, and being aware of the history of the Spans ownership transferring on to Peachtree B and the conditions that have existed up there on a pretty much dead-end cul-de-sac with a cemetery. The commercial that exists along Penrod has pretty much been limited to the west side. The churches that are along that area are, I believe, on our road properties, except for the Presbyterian church could possibly be on the commercial side. Penrod Road has no center line. There's some tight curves. There's a preponderance of people from the Woodland Hills area on Osprey. I know because our private driveways there, they don't always acknowledge that you're making a left turn into your driveway. The thought of more traffic and commercializing the area beyond the cul-de-sac is discomforting to me as a resident. And when I think of the other commercial areas and businesses that would be more suitable, I'll say in an area where there's better traffic patterns than a dead end into a mountainside, I would have a hard time supporting that, and I thought I should make that clear as you're suggesting things. Thank you.
Sure, so while Mr. Ingalls was speaking, I did bring up the zoning map, and so this is actually the current zoning, and their request was, to review that. I think they want to change that to commercial in this area. So it is adjacent to commercial. Correct.
Water company.
Right, all the way down to the water company. This is the Pinetop Cemetery right here in this area, it's not zoned. Correct. So, is there any comments from the commission as far as what we have done so far, and if I have accurately depicted what we have set out to thus far?
I have a comment. So, you said you're gonna bring that up in the future, so I'm not gonna talk about that section. Regarding the, going on Toward Mountain, and that road out there, all that, commercial that we've included, or that's planned to be all commercial, are we able to create a section on both sides? I don't know how wide that would be, but dictates where that could be in the future, whatever, that's like set apart for migration, for elk to cross, deer to cross, instead of pretty much, because I know deer and elk cross through there. So is there a way that we can know that's going to be the case, just in case they'll eventually make sure they cross through there, we put signs up and they flash, whatever.
Right.
Just,
I think how we can handle that probably is by maybe extending the area that's identified as commercial recreational, or giving a certain section where we can have that as an opportunity at least to identify that. Not, I don't know how we would handle that, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and it is the primary reason, as far as I know, that the speed limit was reduced on this highway multiple times, because there is elk crossing. I think it started initially at 65, if I can recall, from 20 plus years ago, and then they slowly reduced it down to 45. That's good, because there was a significant amount of accidents with elk.
Okay. And I guess my second point is going back to your, how wide we could have the floodplain, whatever, along Billy Creek. You made a comment of we can dictate, so how do we plan that section out? Because I guess behind Safeway, going up that way, I know there's a lot of hikers that go back up in there. I live right back there, so I see plenty of hikers. So I know that's a highly hike area, so are we able to dictate, hey, we're gonna go back on a mile in that area, or 500 feet, just because we know that that's a lot of tourists and individuals hike through there?
Right, so you can see at I zoomed into that area that you're discussing. It is actually pretty wide back there. It's 461 feet. This is back in the area where the town acquired through donation for potential future park. And so also keep that in mind.
How are we going up?
I'm sorry?
How are we going up Billy Creek now? How wide is that? Did you say it was 200 feet?
This is, right here in this area is 450 that I'm measuring across at the widest point. You can see my cursor here. So it varies, basically, is what I'm saying. It's not consistent, and it goes back to what I was discussing earlier, how it varies basically with the hydrodynamics of the floodplain that being mapped.
But can we dictate, like, so we know the floodplain, but can we dictate how so big we want to make that open space?
No. We can, but I think it's an easier sell to the public to say, hey, this is a recognized floodplain, and we would like to protect it as open space. I think it's an easier sell, especially when it crosses private property, to have that as a reasoning, as opposed to we would like more space, or I think that's honestly, I feel like that's the best defense for open space that that we could have.
So, one last thing I have on your so, but can you go up? I guess I can explain my opinion better.
Sure.
Other way.
Okay, so you want me to head south?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, it does choke down because like I said, there's more than likely a floodplain there.
Right.
There is a floodplain there, to be clear, but it's not steady.
Yeah, so right here, so kind of going back up.
This
now.
area is 200 feet.
So going back up right there, so there's like a big cliff in that area, and as you go back in there,
Right along the back of this neighborhood, I believe.
yeah, there's a cliff, and even as you continue going up, it still drops down quite a ways. And so 200 feet, maybe you don't reach the floodplain, but pretty much that's your cliff. And so if you want to allow, we still want to allow people to go hiking in there, we would have to increase that farther away so they can hike down into that area.
Right. Keep in mind, Commissioner Broomhall, that at the time, if this actually were to be developed,
Yes.
we could require the developer to say, hey, we want to see some trails in this area.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay.
So 2 football fields isn't large enough then?
That would be 600 feet, so.
So is that what you're looking to go to, 600 feet?
We're looking at 200 right now at this.
In additional to that?
No, this is, what's
Just
reflected
200.
is 200, yeah. I think this is a better starting point than just saying, it's forest, and that's what it is. So this, at least this way, we're recognizing that, yeah, there's potential for floodplain issues. Floodway, there is a study, we were looking at zoning. Yes, the Forest Service doesn't recognize zoning, but the town does, and this is in the town. So the same thing could happen to this property as the property that is quite contentious down by Rim Trail. And so we're trying to preempt that by doing some preemptive planning this time. Hopefully the street is going to appreciate that. And appreciate the comments.
Sorry. So if a developer comes in, if I'm a developer, I come in, and am I able to argue? I'm a developer, I come in, I put something near area that nobody goes to, that's not easily accessible currently, up to 200 feet. Another developer comes in and wants to argue, hey, I want to go to the 200 feet area. I don't care if that's been used by individuals. I don't care if that's a trail, whatever. I want it as close as I can to Billy Creek, and I should be allowed that because you allow the other developer that same 200 feet access.
There is open space requirements as far as if someone, developer were to come forward, and the commission and the council can put stipulations on it as far as additional buffers and open space. There are those requirements already in each individual zone.
Okay, so we wouldn't be like putting like a pigeonhole of, sorry, you're right, 200 feet, you get you as close as you want to with another person.
Well, of course, they could always have that argument, but I would say that by virtue of us planning ahead, we have at least a starting metric for us to say, hey, we want more. We need to recognize that this is floodplain, protecting this, and we want more for open space, and then dictate those requirements of the open space on whichever zone we propose.
Perfect, okay, perfect, thank you. Sorry, guys.
Any other questions, comments? Is there any other changes or areas that you guys would be interested in discussing this evening?
I don't believe so.
I think that we're getting close to wrapping this up, actually, so, if you guys are comfortable with where we're at, then, we wouldn't be able to do it at the following meeting, because we need time to notify, the public hearing, but in August, this can come before you for, recommendation to council.
Well, I think we need to, the one area we have to kind of iron out is over on Henrod, like as Ringles, we had it.
Okay, so,
I think
So why
that,
wouldn't we do that as BUD, and so,
the whole area on Penrose is PUD?
no, just that,
Big old quarter.
that section down at the end where they're trying to do those cabins.
or they can't increase it. They don't wanna do anything too drastic, I don't believe, but they can't increase it at all where they're at currently. That's what's the driving factor of the request. But I wanna say they wanna do 6 to 8, I think we have 4 currently. And they like these cabins because, they're tucked away, there's not much traffic, they don't anticipate there would be increasing too much traffic. And be aware that this actually is allowed by virtue of the state statute for short-term rentals throughout the community, and we're seeing that. And so this is kind of a directed use, and a request to that would fall within the zoning guidelines, and not just as part of a short-term rental. So, and they are actively, like I mentioned, they are actively trying to eliminate legal non-conforming uses from the community.
We'll discuss this more though when you write it, correct? Okay.
Right. But I just brought it up because I want you guys to be aware of it and kind of what's going on in the background and why I initially suggested the commercial zoning. I think that they might be able to do it with the planned area development, because that's basically what you guys approved on that.
And work on this. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so you guys comfortable with just happening on Penrock Road then? And just make one change as far as accommodation, like a commercial recreational, elk crossing type facility, I don't know. I mean, not to say that we necessarily have to call that out, but it doesn't hurt. Yeah.
Well, I think it's actually a really good idea in the sense that would give the purchaser a heads up of what's happening. Like if they purchase it, they can already see like, hey, if I acquire this piece, it's already, the general plan has it kind of, that's what you can do with it. So I think that might help us solve some future problems by doing it. So thank you, Commissioner Grimwald, it's a very good suggestion. And if you could work on that, then we can revisit what you have.
So what I'll do is I'll bring this back in 2 weeks again, and then we'll.
Thank you.
The speed limit's 35 through there, that's right.
I believe
It
that's
doesn't turn 45 until it gets up to the top.
Right, and like I said, at one point it was actually 65, I missed that day.
Yeah, so 35 is pretty slow through there.